briefly kind of brush on the airdrop. There is $4,000 available to the wider community in the form of an airdrop. So the way that we do this is through the submission of a review. So what we would expect of all of you is for you to all go to CUDOS's website, social media, and Medium, even their Discord, to get as much information as you can independently on the project. So then when you come to write a review, you're already kind of informed and you can actually write something constructive, something that's useful. We'll be screening all the reviews regardless, just to make sure that there's nothing too low effort, too copy paste, no repeat submissions, all that sort of thing. But yeah, to give yourself the best chance of becoming eligible for your portion of that $4,000, make sure you DYOR do your own research. And we look forward to reading all of your reviews, of course. So there are further details, there's more information. I believe it's in the announcements channel. Alan, if you're listening, it might be a good time just to maybe do a repost or something like that, just so everyone can kind of see where to go, what links to press, that sort of stuff. Possibly we might have a website as well that they can apply through. If I could just get confirmation that that's still up, that'd be great. Okay, but yeah, without further ado, hello everybody and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a huge event, a huge AMA.
Yes.
We're so happy to have a partner of this caliber. Almost goes without introduction because they are making such massive moves and also at the moment are riding the success of the launch of their mainnet. So yeah, welcome everybody to the joint collaboration AMA event between Gigachad, woas, that's the walls of Alt Street, and CUDOS. I'll just give Nexus a chance to introduce himself for context. As far as we're aware, no one's ever done this before. This is the very first joint server community collaboration AMA that we're aware of on Discord.
Absolutely.
So this is a big deal, guys. We've pulled some favors. We wanted to make sure that we could provide CUDOS the best kind of AMA possible. And we were looking for a community of like-minded investors. So we want people on the same caliber as our own community. Some people who have a lot of experience with crypto already. They already have been introduced to, all the different facets and corners of the crypto scene. And obviously, Nexus has done his absolute best to provide that to his own community through very regular AMAs with all sorts of projects. So Nexus, if you want to just say a few bits and pieces about woas, yourself, and so on.
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Nexus. I'm the host of AMA over at the Wolves of Alt Street. Our community is a little over a year and a half about old. Like you guys, we're one of the sort of survivors of the various bear cycles that we've dealt with the past few months/years. And in particular, I am a graduate student working on an MBA at the time, and I'm also a crypto miner who, in particular, full disclosure, huge fan of Cudo, and Cudo Miner in particular. It's one of my favorite mining platforms. I've done a lot with them, and I'm a huge fan of what they do and what they are doing, and it is my utter and honest pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Nexus. It really is a pleasure to have you here, and we look forward to, receiving your expertise. It's a really great opportunity for us to have you. I'm also going to go ahead and introduce Jeff. He is the representative of CUDOS. Really knows the project in and out. We've spoken privately a few times before, so yeah, I can vouch for Jeff. He is an absolute mastermind when it comes to cloud computing, CUDOS, and maybe even crypto in general. So Jeff, do you want to just introduce yourself to the community?
describe myself as a mastermind, but yeah, I'm Jeffrey Elliott, head of community at CUDOS, and yeah, I'm in charge of all the community activities, social media, really building all the communities tied to CUDOS. So that's the the developer communities, the communities of speculators, yeah, everything to do with community. That's me.
Yeah, and Kudos itself is such a vibrant community, guys. So, I can't recommend their Discord enough. If you guys want to talk more about the project with more staff members, make sure you check out Kudos' own dedicated Discord server. Of course, you're more than welcome to talk with us here in gigachad about Kudos and cloud computing, crypto in general. The same with woas. They've got a super vibrant community. I mean, if you're not part of all three servers yet, I'm not sure what you're waiting on. Go and join them all for sure. So yeah, Jeff. First of all, yeah, how are things going? You're kind of riding on the success of your mainnet launch. That was this week. A couple of delays, but looks like the launch went really well, and you now have the features delivered, so to speak. I mean, it's been a long time coming. Yeah, how are you? How are you kind of feeling?
It's an amazing feeling to finally have our chain out. Like you mentioned, there were some delays. We intended to get this out earlier, but we would have much rather put something out that's not going to break. We wanted something solid, and unfortunately that meant delaying it. But to be honest, I'd much prefer delaying it and putting out something great than rushing it and putting something that's just going to fall over in the first day or something. So yeah, it's such a great feeling to have it out at the moment. We're so excited. Everyone's buzzing in the team. The community's buzzing. It's a massive milestone for us. I actually remember the moment that we had the adequate amount of consensus for our chain to go live. We were waiting for it to go above 66.66% consensus on the chain, and we were watching it at 66.5 for ages. And every time a validator came on, it went up by like the smallest percentage. But then eventually a massive validator came on board and pushed us over the edge, and we had a live blockchain, and it was a great moment to share with the team.
That's amazing. Yeah, just out of interest, what was the straw that kind of broke the camel's back? What do you think it was that eventually created that majority of 66% that you were looking for?
We had a validator with a lot of stake jump onto the network and get set up. So yeah, that was essentially it. Can't remember exactly.
A governance whale, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. They weren't that massive compared to the others, but yeah, they just push us over the edge essentially.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, out of interest, I just want to give the community some kind of like story that they can follow and get invested in. What was the biggest challenge behind the launch of the mainnet? Could you kind of take us on that journey and kind of give us an idea of what the team was facing to try and make this all work and happen?
Yeah, so I think it would be different from different team members, of course, because there are various things that needed to be done to get this live. But from my perspective, one of the biggest challenges was syncing up these validators who are spread all over the world. Because one, we want this to be a properly decentralized network, so we're trying to spread this out as much as possible globally. So just kind of trying to sync everyone, get everyone to jump on a call, jump in the Discord at the same time, run their validator nodes, and also help them with issues they're facing. It was kind of like herding cats at one point, if I'm honest. But yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest challenge, and that was something that we were struggling with all throughout the testnet phase. It was really difficult. And we have great validators on board. It's just, different time zones and that sort of thing. And a lot of them are working on other projects as well. So it's a lot of factors just making it more difficult to get everyone to sync up, essentially.
Sure, yeah. And Nexus, I know obviously you brought some WAS people with you here today. I think our communities are pretty similar, but I'm wondering if you've got any questions for Jeff that you think your community would be most interested in.
Oh, I have tons, but I don't want to run a train over you, brother.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, well, usually where I want to start is getting people sort of knowing you a little better. So my first question that I have on my run sheet is, besides blockchain, what are your hobbies, Jeff? What energizes you at the end of your day?
I love music. I'm a massive anime nerd. I collect comic books. I'm mainly a DC Comics fan, so I've got hundreds of DC comics that
You a Watchmen
get
fan?
signed and slabbed at. I love Watchmen. Absolutely love it. I think it's super underrated to this day. And
Man
I don't
after
think
my
the
own
movie's
heart.
that bad.
Man after my own heart. Where does the name? I was just curious. Where does the name Kudo come from? Does that come from the concept of kudos, as in like, here's an intangible, almost kind of sarcastic, pride-infused reward for something silly I saw you do?
Yeah, that's one aspect, but kudos also means coin, I believe, in Latin. So there's that too. But yeah, that's as much as I know of the origins of kudo and kudos.
Well, I guess in crypto, we're all in the business of sending and receiving electronic kudos of various sizes and flavors, so there you go.
Yeah, and you've been with the project from, I mean, near enough the start, right? I think you've been with Kudos for what, 2 years now, Jeff? Is that right?
Yep. So
Yeah.
it's coming up to 2 years now. I was there before the launch of the token. I was very heavily involved in the token launch activities, getting the community built up and ramped up for that. That was an exciting time. The team was much smaller back then, so it was very busy, as you can imagine. But
Yeah.
it was a great experience. I learned so much. Things in this space move really fast anyway, but
sure.
that period was almost like a blur because things were moving so quickly, and it was a great launch. Like, we couldn't be happier with the way the token launched at the time. So
I hope it's not too much of a blur. I was kind of wondering if you could tell me, I don't know, just some differences between how the project is now to how it was then, because I suppose at the time you joined, there wasn't really, I mean, there was some kind of adjacent projects. Obviously, we talked about the Kudo miner earlier, and, you know, there was some other things like Kudo Donate. But a lot of the features that Kudos has really been pushing marketing-wise, they were pipe dreams at the time, and now all of a sudden they're starting to become real things that people can actually do stuff with. So, yeah, what do you kind of feel like? How do you feel like things have progressed since then?
They progress so well. The team has grown. It's matured in terms of the way we do things compared to when I first started. Of course, the products are maturing now as well. And like you said, you know, it was almost a pipe dream when I first started. And I wouldn't really use that phrase. It was more like a vision, I would say.
Sure,
And really, that's what drew me, because the vision made sense for me. You know, before I joined the company, I was like, yeah, like, this makes so much sense. Cloud computing needs to be able to scale, and what better way to do that than, you know, to use excess compute? It just makes sense. The demand for computing power is just going to explode. I think it's going to go up by 1,000 times in the next 5 years or something like that, just because of things like AI, IoT. So yeah, I was going off on a bit of a tangent there, but essentially the vision is now becoming a reality, and it's so encouraging as someone who's been working with the team to just see things actually materialize. And that's why the mainnet launch was such a big deal for us, because yeah, it just feels so good to be able to point people to an explorer to look at our chain and to see the blocks being created. And to show them our transaction speeds, instead of just saying, oh, transaction speeds are going to be this. I can actually show you now. So yeah.
I've got a follow-up along that same line. I've been following the CUDOS Cloud Compute project since it was originally announced as an ERC20 token, and I'm kind of wondering about the transition you guys chose to make to Cosmos.
Yeah, so the reason we chose the Cosmos SDK is really the interoperability. Um, so we want to be able to, we don't want to live in a silo as a chain. We want to be able to connect to all of these chains. We'll have bridges to all sorts of chains. At the moment, we are bridged to Ethereum, of course, but we're looking at other projects, perhaps Solana near, other projects of that nature to be able to bridge our chain to. So yeah, there's the interoperability side of things, there's the speed side of things, and also when it comes to the Cosmos SDK, smart contracts can be written in Rust, which is a brilliant language, a very, very safe language. I think safety should be at the forefront of everyone's mind, especially when building blockchain products and things like that. I think we've seen so many cases where things aren't built properly or written properly, and Rust is a very safe, memory safe language. Won't give you the space to do silly things. So yeah, the smart contracts are written in Rust, and yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was kind of some of the reasons why we chose Cosmos over Ethereum. Obviously, there's the scalability issues, and transaction fees as well. Like,
Oh yeah,
being on the Ethereum network, at the moment anyway, is just not.
brutal.
It's not right for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Ethereum network's got its limitations, but also, it has the benefit of having so many developers already on the chain. But then, it just goes to show how great it is that you've managed to come so far in establishing that Ethereum bridge too.
Yeah. Another thing I actually wanted to mention, because you mentioned, loads of developers being on Ethereum already. And the great thing with Rust is that it's a Web 2 language as well. So there's going to be a whole host of developers who are familiar with the language and only need to learn a few new things, to be able to break into Web 3, if anything. And so we've got a whole pool of developers to pull from. And I think, if I remember correctly, Rust was voted the developers' favorite language of like last year or something on I can't remember where, but yeah, it's growing in popularity. It's a very young language, relatively young language. So there's that, but it's brilliant, and I think it's going to grow in popularity year on year.
For sure. I mean, we've got some Rust lovers here in the server. I'm sure woas does too. They've got their Rust fanatics. It is definitely growing in popularity. And so also is cloud computing in general. I mean, do you guys really feel like you've kind of, I don't know, begun to kind of conquer this niche that's been emerging?
Yeah, I think, if I'm being honest, I think that's going to be an area that we're going to be leaps and bounds above a lot of our competition in this space, mainly because our CEO, his previous company, was a compute service provider, which provided about 1% of the UK's total compute at the time. So he has connections and understanding of the cloud computing industry, and you've seen what's happened with CUDOS, the success we've had there. So yeah, I think when it comes to the cloud compute niche, we're very well positioned to do very well.
I have a follow-up on that, if you don't mind. How exactly can us sort of Bitcoin and Ethereum nerds, miners or not, help to compete with Amazon Web Services? That goal is just awesome, and I want to know, how can we help? How can we participate in that?
Well, there's a few ways. It depends on what your capabilities are. So if you're a developer, it'd be great for you to build something on our chain that will be able to utilize this compute in a way, or even provide compute in a streamlined way on top of our network. You'll be able to share your excess compute from all sorts of devices. So we're looking at games consoles, mobile phones, of course, your gaming PCs. So there's that as well. You can contribute to the network, your excess computing power, and then earn, tokens on the side.
That's awesome.
Is this still quite like far off in the future? I'm sure anyone who's read the white paper may have picked up on the games consoles. Well, exactly what they could offer to the network in terms of unused power. That's a big focus of CUDOS, is trying to make use of some of the computer resources available but mostly dormant. Is that something which is kind of like still far off, or is it maybe closer than we think to maybe bring console integration to CUDOS?
It's a little bit far off at the moment. I wouldn't say crazy far off. If you might have noticed that we have advisors who worked at PlayStation, partnered with AMD, and we're speaking to various other gaming tech providers. So we're very well positioned to pursue that angle.
Yeah, I mean, well, kind of goes without saying, Discord is predominantly a platform for gamers. We just also happen to be here, but gaming is, an adjacent interest for many of our users. And for a lot of people, maybe one of their first introductions to cloud computing was the rise of cloud gaming. That's something which has only been growing and growing over the past few years. I think probably PlayStation's network introduced it to most people, but now Xbox arguably is taking over the space. I just wondered if you could tell me a bit more about how you see cloud computing progressing over the next couple of years. In the white paper, you talked about the increase in the need for that network from 2017 to now. Where does it currently stand?
The whole emergence of metaverses has just shown that the demand for compute power is just going to grow exponentially as that industry grows. It's hard to imagine a world where you have very well rendered, very good looking metaverses that somehow do it without computing power. And the current service now, centralized services, just aren't scaled out to kind of support that at the moment. And we've seen the issues with centralized compute providers. I don't mention any names, but there's a lot of services that have shut down. I've had downtimes that have lost, and this is something would spoil.
Sure. I mean, ironically, Jeff, I don't know if it was just me, but your internet was kind of choppy there.
I also heard it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and ask. Actually, I mean, some of the things which CUDOS is really contingent on in order to achieve that mass adoption. Oh, sorry, a little bit of lag there.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing CUDOS is kind of contingent on in terms of achieving the mass adoption that maybe it wants to really build up that compute power that can be offered to developers and to users of the network, is internet speed. So without really good internet speed, we're not really going to be able to transfer data to and fro at the speed and rate needed to maybe facilitate some of these metaverses. Obviously, goes without saying that ISPs and so on are continuously making efforts to improve internet speeds all over the world. But just wondering how you feel that that acts as a bottleneck towards the success of CUDOS at the moment.
Oh, great question.
Because the metaverse is just one aspect of something that we providing compute to. There's abundant compute, the AI. People working with AI will need intensive work that may not be as intensive as metaverses or simple games. So many other I suppose areas that would demand compute that won't be as intensive. But as you say, things are developing in the ways of internet speeds, and as we scale out, this is just going to be something that scales with us, as we've seen over the past few years. But as I'm saying this, I'm probably chopping out right now due to my internet speed. So yeah,
You
it's
sound all right
definitely
so far, bro.
Yeah, we're getting there.
okay, cool. Nice.
It might be a cool time actually just to touch on. I mean, it's kind of in the same vein. Do you maybe want to tell us about your partnership with Tingo?
Yeah, sure. So we're working with Tingo to basically have CUDOS on about 9 million mobile devices. If I remember correctly, it will allow farmers, people living out in rural areas of Nigeria, where Tingo's based at the moment, to earn off the excess compute for their mobile phones. And the mobile phone angle is a important one, especially when we talk about third world countries, or I'm not really a fan of that terminology, but yeah, lower economically developed countries, because in a lot of those areas, people may not have access to massive gaming computers or consoles, but everybody seems to have a mobile phone. People live off their mobile phones, they bank with their mobile phones, they do everything we do and more with their phones, their
really
smartphones.
Transformative. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just going to give them another avenue to earn money, essentially, for themselves. And I'm not going to pretend that they're going to be earning hundreds and hundreds of dollars per day just off their mobile phone. That's just unrealistic. But earn enough to something here and there. You will earn a decent amount without wearing the hardware of your mobile phone.
For sure,
And that's the aim with Tingo.
I think there are figures available, right? It's something like up to $10 a month, which maybe sounds kind of inconsequential to us, but living out in Africa, maybe you're on low income, but you happen to have a phone that's dormant most of the time. That $10 a month could mean quite a lot over there for sure.
In the Wolves, we've got tons of users from the developing world. Pakistan, Lebanon, India, you name it. They're from all over the place. I love them all equally, and their ability to earn a couple extra bucks will help in the countries that they're in with respect to their inflated fiat.
I mean, $10 a month is not bad. We're talking $120 a year there. I mean, that could go towards your phone plan in the first place. Take that off of your next phone contract if you like. That's a pretty significant saving anyway, as long as you're actually you've got a mobile device that can contribute well to the network. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing, not just for people in the developing world, but even here in the UK and the rest of the West.
Well, you mentioned Tinga. I guess my next question would be, if you can tell us, who are your other partners in the redundant, underutilized hardware area? Because personally, I love this goal.
So we're partnered with AMD. So they're a massive one. We're speaking to a few others at the moment who I'm not sure I can mention right now, because it's very early days.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there are a lot. As I mentioned before, we have advisors from PlayStation, and yeah, so that's basically the area in terms of partnerships where there's a lot of underutilized compute that we'll be able to access.
And we talked about metaverses earlier as being maybe one of the biggest kind of developments that will be reliant on good decentralized cloud computing. There's maybe some kind of uncertainty or confusion about how metaverses will actually be implemented and interact with the world as it currently stands. I mean, there's even an argument between AR metaverses and actual VR metaverses. I wonder if you could provide us some actual numbers, given obviously the scale of how big a metaverse is and how much power is needed to actually display metaverses to decent kind of resolutions and good graphics.
Oh yeah, and
yeah,
I've
do you
got
have
a
any numbers for
follow-up
that?
to that when you're done.
I don't have actual numbers at the moment, if I'm honest, in terms of how much it'd be required
Oh yeah, sure.
to push.
It's a bit specific. Yeah, no problem. That's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, there's no doubt. Like if we were going down the VR route, there's obviously going to be a lot more demand for compute on that side. So the AR sort of approach to things might be where we start. And going back to your question about the internet and internet speeds, seems like AR metaverses would probably be best placed to thrive until internet speeds catch up.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think a lot of focus has moved towards the kind of like AR solution ever since Meta dropped their metaverse kind of teaser thing, whatever that was. I think that was maybe earlier this year. So yeah, maybe that's something that CUDOS could integrate with in future. Maybe they could provide some network power towards Meta itself. What do you think?
Well, maybe. But yeah, I think that when it comes to metaverses and going back to the AR sort of angle, there's a lot of crossover there with NFTs, and on our network we have a built-in NFT module, so people would be able to developer would be able to go there, technically render an NFT using our compute and mint it on chain, and it could be an AR NFT that they own, and could let's say there's some sort of AR NFT DApp that allows you to own structures in that you could see in real life, essentially through your phone or something, and that could be your own personal place or space that you own. So things like that are possible with our network.
Well, I'm gonna hand this to Nexus for a second. I'm sure he's absolutely itching. For those that don't know, Nexus has worked with a ton of NFT projects. He's done his absolute best to bring all sorts of NFT developments to his own community.
When
Nexus,
they come,
what do you think?
The NFT world, if I were to give my own opinion, I'd say the NFT world is the highest asset risk class in crypto. You're playing with fire when you get into that space. But in that same vein, I gotta salute the projects that try to build on the idea in a market that's, from my perspective, quite hostil to their existence most of the time. So I salute them for giving an effort. I guess as far as custom-built NFT minting, is there any sort of cool functions of that feature that we haven't touched on thus far? Because I know we wanted to touch on that, and there's a lot of NFT people who are going to want to know. I guess I'd throw in development tools into that hat as well.
Yeah, so what I mentioned before, the built-in NFT module on chain means that you can mint NFTs with our chain, with smart contracts on our chain, build a DApp or marketplace around that, a game where you mint NFTs in game using our chain. So there's a lot of possibilities there just because of that built NFT module. But going back to what you were saying on NFTs and the space, I think that NFTs are still very, very young. They haven't really met their full potential. I think I remember when I first heard of NFTs years ago, probably 2018 or something, years ago. Everything I heard about NFTs was to do with ownership of land, ownership of gold, real life assets, and that stuff has just been leapfrogged by PFPs and things like that.
The Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Yeah.
But that is still an area to be explored and developed, and obviously the market's going to go where the money is, but that's where you get the you see the benefits of a bear market, essentially, because now everybody's head's not in the clouds. Everyone's just thinking, okay, let's build something with real use. That's not when no one's trying to chase a hype train, no one's trying to ride the bull. Everyone's focusing, well, not everyone, but the right projects are focusing on building, and that's the benefit of a bear market. I know it's painful. I'm my portfolio is not looking happy at the moment, but it's if you're really interested in the tech and the future, and you really believe in the future of this space as a whole, bear market's nothing to be too upset about, because builders are going to just buckle down now and bring out something, put things together that are really cool. And I think this might be the time where NFTs take that next step, and our network is now in place to support that next step and that next leap for NFTs. So whenever we see the next bull run and everyone's getting excited and wants to look at what's out there, perhaps there will be better uses for NFTs, new uses for NFTs that have been built on the CUDOS blockchain.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked privately before, and you put it really simply, which I quite liked. You said, the bear period is a time for building. And I think what you've built at CUDOS, has the potential of providing a lot of utility in the future, and especially with regards to NFTs, the NFT module which you guys have. It could really change. Well, it could offer solutions to a lot of things which have plagued NFTs so far. I mean, anyone that's played around with investing in NFTs in the past has probably encountered some of the expenses with regards to minting, with regards to gas fees, and maybe that's something you want to touch on, given
Absolutely.
In the white paper you do talk about decreased gas fees.
That was going to be my next question.
It's going to be super low cost to mint NFTs on our network. To transfer them, you'll be able to transfer them across the different chains, or transfer them from different chains. So yeah, we're going to be very well placed to help the NFT sort of space take things into the next level, and overcome the issues it's been facing so far.
Yeah, and the interchain bit, I'm not sure if that's even the right term, but the bridges that you're creating with all these different blockchains is super important with regards to NFTs, especially as NFTs kind of interact with different multiverses built on different chains. It allows for that kind of compatibility from NFTs on one chain to metaverses on another chain, which previously, I mean, we've worked with projects, sort of metaverse projects before, and they were only really able to offer any utility to NFTs built or minted on that same chain.
Correct.
So maybe we want to talk, maybe you could explain actually a little bit more about the development process behind the bridges that you're building with these different chains. So I understand the Ethereum one's coming soon, perhaps in the next quarter, if the timeliness of the roadmap is to kind of be fulfilled, but also the Cosmo one's in the works. There's a Polkadot one in the works.
Yep. There should be an Algorand one possibly as well. We're trying to connect to as many chains as we can, to be honest. Like you said, NFTs have kind of been siloed onto the chain they've been built on recently, and it's really weird because this is a space where it's like crypto's been blowing up, blockchain's been blowing up, but it's still very niche. And really what keeps it going is community. And I'm going to be biased because I'm head of community, but we talk about community all the time when it comes to projects and how important it is for those individual projects. But as a whole, the blockchain space community needs to be able to interact. And so interchain bridges, things like that are absolutely necessary for all of us to basically thrive in this space. It's almost like if someone built I don't know, a YouTube app. Let's say when YouTube was created, you can only use it on one, type of computer. It just doesn't make any sense. You're not going to be able to scale that way. You're not going to be able to support each other. Network effect is just completely gone. And so, I think that is something that we see as super important, because people might say, oh, this chain is could be a competitor, that chain could be a competitor. No, it's not really about competition at this point.
Yeah,
It's more about collaboration. It's more important to be collaborative, because we're all going to get a lot further that way.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, we're going to get ready to move on to the next section where we'll be answering questions from the community. We're just going to ask a couple more questions, but I want to preface it with just letting you guys know how it's going to work. So obviously a lot of you guys have asked questions, which are really great. Just had a skim through. They're really fantastic, and we can't wait to put these to Jeff.
Speaking for myself, I expect nothing less.
Sure. So we will be prioritizing voice questions. So the guys who will get their questions answered first will be the guys who put their hand up in the audience today, and be invited up onto the stage to ask Jeff their questions themselves. If I could just ask you all to make sure you do your own mic check, just so we don't run into any technical issues with regards to your mics not working. That is to say, make sure your mics work. Yeah, we'll be getting onto those very soon. I think Nexus just has one more question for Jeff before we get onto the community questions, so take it away.
Yes, sir. I just have one more. This is my last one. The CUDOS Git says, quote, the underlying elements to support CUDO network have been under development since 2017, primarily in the form of CUDOminer, which is live with over 150,000 users signed up in over 145 countries and over around 20,000 nodes running various blockchain and compute workloads, end quote. However, this bit on the Git was last updated in February. My question is, how accurate is that data today? Because I'm imagining that it's slightly out of date. And how interconnected is the mining suite with the cloud compute token? Are my own workers on CUDOminer contributing to the cloud computing system in some way?
So that's a good question. On the data, I don't have the exact figures, but it's still in and around that figure at the moment, I believe. And also, when it comes to the compute from miner being lined up with the compute pillar, this is something that's going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but will be happening. We'll be looking at putting that in place. So all of those nodes, all that compute sitting there in miner at the moment, will be able to contribute to our compute pillar and our compute network. But yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, but it's coming. So, like, presumably those of us in the crypto miner can donate our work through the miner to cloud compute and get paid for that?
Yep. I'm not 100% sure if you'll be able to do it through miner. You probably will, but I can't confirm that at the moment.
Okay.
But you might have to do it separately through the compute platform. Or perhaps they'll be merged into one. That's just something that's coming in the future.
Well, I know the miner will shift workloads, so I imagine that if CUDOS comes up with, I guess, a workload of some kind that can help the cloud compute, then I could totally see that working just fine. Cool. All right. Anything else from you, Master Kemry?
Only a little bit more information for the community. So yeah, guys, we'll be moving on to answering your questions now. As you guys might have been made aware from the announcement, there will be a prize given to the person who asks the best question. So I hope you have all put your thinking caps on and come up with some really good questions for our friend Jeff over here. So to separately, also anyone who submits a review for CUDOS will be eligible for the airdrop. So I'm just going to briefly go through how
For
to
my own
become eligible.
edification, when does that window close?
So the reviews will be open for probably at least around a week. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of discretionary on our end. But yeah, probably at least a week from now for you guys to get your reviews in. So to submit a review, what you will all need to do is to head to gigachad.com/kudos, I believe. Let me just double check that. It is, yeah, gigachad.com/kudos. And just go through the steps essentially. It's fairly simple. You will need to be on Google Chrome. You will need to have the Kepler plugin or Kepler extension installed. Using this, it was developed by Alan, the server owner, before the mainnet launched. But using this, it will also provide you the CUDOS address for your CUDOS wallet. You'll then be able to use this to claim your airdrop of CUDOS tokens once it is kind of distributed. So yeah, head to gigachad.com/kudos to submit your review and gain access to the review form. Okay, like I said, we will be prioritizing questions from the audience with their hands up. We want you guys up here speaking to Jeff, talking to him directly. So if we can get as many of you with your hands up as possible, let's pump up that engagement. Else, we will be coming to all of the questions asked in the text channel, or at least as many as we can do. Like I said, you guys have come up with some really great questions.
Time, as always.
Exactly. So yeah, we will ask as many as we can. But yeah.
So create a good atmosphere if you want them to remain longer, you degenerates.
Exactly. Okay, so up first we've got Oho with the wonderful troll face avatar. Let's hope this isn't just noise down the speaker. Oho, I've invited you up to speak. If you want to just click accept, you can come up.
I will have my finger
Jeff
on the mute button for Twitch's sake, just in case.
For sure. Okay. I don't know if you've received that invitation to come up to speak. If not, I'll just quickly move on to some text questions. Let me just see what I've got here then. So, let's just do it in kind of chronological order, I suppose.
That's what I always
do,
we've brother.
We've got a question from Helos, who is a native gigachadian spammer. Helos is wondering, what makes CUDOS different from the other thousands of cryptocurrencies out there? I mean, maybe we've touched on this before, but Jeff, if you want to just put it in simple terms, what does CUDOS offer that other cryptocurrencies don't?
A decentralized cloud computing network that will power all sorts of workloads, and including metaverses, AI systems, graphic rendering, you name it. I don't think there are thousands of cryptocurrencies and chains doing what we're doing. There are others, but not many of them are doing it in the way we're doing it. We will be able to provision WASM workloads, virtual machines, that sort of thing, using CosmWasm, and of course there's the interoperability of our chain as well, which a lot of other chains don't have. So yeah, there's a lot that makes us unique.
Sure. I mean, that question was asked quite close to the beginning of the AMA. Maybe we've already established that, but even so, still good to preface this section of the AMA with a nice kind of general overview of the project in general. Nexus, do you want to take the next question?
Absolutely, boss. And it comes from Gilang Desu, a regular from my shows. Thanks for coming, buddy. It can be seen that CUDOS is a diverse ecosystem with a combination of features to help satisfy all customer needs. To integrate all these features, does the team have enough financial and human potential? And can the community expect its applicability in the near future?
So that's a good question.
A huge question.
Yeah, it's a massive question. But unlike many other our projects, we have live products that have been running and doing well for a while. So as we've mentioned previously, Kudo Miner. So that is something that's generating revenue for us. We're not just 100% reliant on token sales and things like that. So financially, we're in a very good position. In terms of talent, we are always adding to the team. We had a massive amount of growth this year. So we're always looking to expand, and we're always looking for the right talent in the team. So, and in terms of will we see, I think what he was getting at is, will we see things, basically, will we see a live product? And I think what we've shown is that we do deliver on our products. It might take a little bit more time sometimes, and that's to be expected in the tech space, in any tech world. Sometimes products need to be refined a little bit more, maybe more features need to be added before they are released, but at the end of the day, once it's released, and our mainnet is a great example of that.
Okay, yeah, so Helos has another question. I think another kind of general question for you, just asking what the team's qualifications are.
Sure. We've got a bunch of people in the team with PhDs. We've got, as I mentioned, our CEO previously ran a cloud service compute service provider that was providing 1% of the UK's total compute. We have people who've worked on lots of other blockchain projects as well. Myself, I've built communities for other projects in the past as well. So yeah, we have a super talented team. I think one of our data analysts, I think our head of data, actually has a PhD in quantum physics, which blew my mind, because that's always something that was super interesting to me as a Watchmen fan as well. So
Yes.
yeah, got a brilliant team, honestly.
It's cool you say that. That actually segues really well into the next text question that we've had. Nexus, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, sir. Odyssey asks, how will CUDOS deal with the advent of quantum computing?
This is a really interesting one. So I'm not the best person to ask when it comes to quantum computing. My initial thoughts is that perhaps there is a way for quantum computing to play a role in what we're doing here. Perhaps, I think we're quite a way off from quantum computing being something that is used every day in the everyday sort of space, or used even by certain top companies, because of expense, and yeah, just the technology needs to be developed a little bit more as well. But that's definitely an interesting question, and something I'm sure the teams is on the team's radar.
Yeah, I think it's probably worth mentioning as well. Quantum computing will obviously massively benefit processing speed and processing power, but it doesn't necessarily negate the need for cloud computing, because you're not going to be able to realistically fit a quantum computer as we understand it in something like a mobile phone or a games console. So even then, with the advent of and development of quantum computing, I think it's fair to say that there's still a potential need for a cloud network like CUDOS to be able to provide that to, the far reaches of, the world and tech where that kind of service is needed. Okay, I'm going to bring up, I think we've got another hand up here. Like I said, guys, we will be prioritizing those with their hands up. This is Oho, who did try to speak up earlier. So Oho, I've just invited you up to the stage again. If you want to just go ahead and accept the invite, you can be brought up and ask Jeff your question. He should hopefully have had that. No? Okay, well, in the time being, we've had a few more. Yeah, we've had a few more hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and pick from one of these guys, Orange.
Next caller.
Just send you an invite up.
You are on line 1. What is your question
Okay,
for
welcome.
CUDOS?
Hello, I have a simple question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay. Who are some of your competitors?
So we have other people working in the cloud compute space. A few other, so I think there's a Cache Network, and IRC as well. But none of them are doing it in the way we are. None of them are able to scale compute and have the the compute network infrastructure built in the same way we have, where we'll have a separate compute layer and a compute product be contributing to the network. So a lot that I guess makes us stand out compared to our competitors, but the cloud compute space in blockchain isn't a massive, it's still kind of a niche within a niche, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but with a growing need, right? I mean, because there are other cryptocurrencies that try to provide something similar, but nothing dedicated to cloud computing specifically like you guys are. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, yeah, Orange, I hope that
that's
I hope
exactly
that kind of
correct.
answered your question well enough. I'm going to move you back to the audience now. We've got another question from Mark. Kind of nervous to invite him up here. He's kind of prolific in our community, but Mark, I've just invited you up. If you want to go ahead and ask.
Question. How is CUDOS any different than any other coin? What makes it like any different?
Mark, we just had that question.
Oh my god.
Do you want to have another question?
I just came back. Okay. Okay, let me think.
Okay, we've got loads
is
of text questions from you, by the way. If you want to just go through one of the ones that you've typed in the text channel.
I forgot all of them, man. Yeah. Is the team fully doxed? Like, how can we be safe in investing? Hello?
Okay, Jeff. So Mark's asking, is the team fully doxed?
One of the chatters is saying CUDOS is fully doxed on LinkedIn.
Yeah. A lot of the staff are on LinkedIn.
Yep. We're all on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's nice.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much for your question, Mark. Okay. Guys, again, we'll be prioritizing questions from people with their hands up. So if you did want your question asked, if you've got a really burning need to have the answer, feel free to put your hand up and ask by voice yourself. Else we'll just be going back to some of the text questions now.
There are so many great text questions too.
There are a lot, for sure. I think we've answered that one from Gilang Desu. Okay, so we've got a question from a fellow called Do Moromo the Promiserator. That is a crazy name. So he is wondering about the history of the name of the project. I mean, we touched on the meaning of CUDOS. Was that always the name of the project, or were some other ideas thrown around?
I wasn't there in the I guess.
Sure.
I think it was probably always the idea, because created much earlier than CUDOS, CUDO Compute, or even CUDO
Yeah, sure.
Miner. So always destined to follow those lines.
Okay, thank you so much for your question, Mr. Promiserator. Nexus, do you want to take the next one?
Certainly. Be sure I've got that pulled up. Yep, there we go. Our brother from another mother, Alanox, asks, favorite anime?
At the moment, I'd say Vinland Saga.
Ooh, Vinland.
Has anyone in the audience watched that one?
It's a great one. It's about Vikings essentially. It's about early sort of Viking era England and Finland and the Scandinavia. It's brilliant. It's if you're into kind of like the same sort of vibes of Attack on Titan or something a bit darker, perhaps even Berserk. I love Berserk. Something along those lines. So you'd enjoy Vinland Saga.
All right, well, there you go, anime fans. That is a recommendation for you all to check out. Okay, we've got a question from Sammy. I'm just going to go ahead and ask the top one. So Sammy is wondering what backed assets CUDOS has. So I think he is a bit scared about what happened to Luna and the fact that a lot of their value just kind of disappeared from their projects because they weren't kind of aptly backed. Is CUDOS kind of looking to make themselves a bit more secure in that way?
So is the question specifically talking about the token or just the project as a whole?
So I think it's with regards to just the general like financing of the project.
Sure. So the project is continuously bringing in investment, but like I mentioned earlier, we have the CUDOminer product that's generating revenue as well. So and we're continuously growing as a project, which we kind of forecast bringing in some more investment as well. So we're pretty solid compared to some other projects out there.
Yeah, or X projects potentially.
Yeah.
Okay. Nexus, do you want to take the next one?
Certainly. Give me just a moment. There we go. Blackheart asks, "Hi, I've been reading about the docs and it sounds really familiar. Long ago I read a lot about Theta, specifically about their 4.0 mainnet. I know both of those aren't aiming for the same things, but they seem to tread at the same time on things like the cloud services. Why would I focus on CUDOS instead of other projects like Theta that have a bigger, longer history?"
I think I wouldn't say that they have a big and long history because, like I've mentioned a few times now, the CUDOminer product and the Cudo Donate product. I think the goal was always to bring in distributed compute on the network, and this is just the route that we've taken. So now we have the supply side prepared, which a lot of projects will struggle with, and I think that this was the right move to make, to have the supply side there. It made sense because of our CEO's previous company to be able to make that jump to the supply side, and now it's just about getting to the demand side, where a lot of projects, they are going to struggle to get that supply side. They're going to struggle to get people to contribute to their network. And really what you would need is that initial sort of foundation of supply to get you off the ground, to get things rolling, and then start bringing in some more. And yeah, a lot of those projects, I'm not too familiar with Theta in terms of how they've been working, but I know that there are a lot of projects that are, working within the cloud blockchain cloud space that struggle with the supply side.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Jeff, I'm just going to give you a little notification here. We are about an hour and 8 minutes in. So in respect of your own time constraints, we've got loads more questions from the community. So if you did want to stick around and answer some of these, we'd love to keep you here. But if you have got other commitments, just giving you an opportunity here to maybe finalize things if you'd like to.
Sure, I think I'm happy to do one more question if that works.
Okay, well, lucky you. We've got a really excellent question from one of our members, Morkel. Morkel is asking about smart contract development. So he is wondering, does CUDOS plan to support Web 3? And if not, although I think some of it is answered in the white paper. But if not, what is the plan of driving developers to, and I'm not familiar with this, so I apologize if I say it wrong, but COSM-WASM?
Yep, Cosmosm. So there's, I kind of touched on this earlier in terms of bringing on developers, and yeah, we will be supporting Web3 100%, but bringing on developers to build in a Web3 space, one of those angles we'll be looking at is bringing on projects that are building but looking to scale, or will, you know, possibly need to take advantage of that compute sort of the compute layer, because they'll, you know, whatever they're building, be it a game or whatever it is, will need a lot of computing power. There's also the fact that smart contracts are written in Rust, as I mentioned earlier, so there's a lot of space for Web 2 engineers to get involved. There's a lot of interest from Web 2 engineers to jump into the Web 3 space. One, because they tend to get paid pretty well, if I'm honest. And two, they're just curious about the space. It's blowing up, and if you're a developer, there's a chance that you're interested in technology. So it's something that piques their interest, and if there's a way for them to do that without having to learn a whole new language, or comfortably with the language they're familiar with already, it makes the whole transition easier. And really now we're really focusing on building our developer community. We've got all sorts of things planned, hackathons, sort of scavenger hunts,
Me
all sorts
and
of
you, we've
developer
talked
activity.
about. Sorry, Jeff. Just to bring something up that we talked about earlier, but you mentioned something about an ambassador program when we spoke about the development side of things previously. For the developers in our audience, do you maybe want to touch on the ambassador program?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So the ambassador program allows developers and everybody else actually. So our ambassador program is called the CUDOS Rangers program, and there are different types of rangers. You can be a social ranger and earn rewards by being engaged in a community. A creative ranger, where you can create assets on our behalf and share it across your platforms. There's the security ranger. You will basically be in charge of keeping our community safe, reporting scammers and that sort of thing. And if you are a white hat hacker, even better, you'll be able to earn rewards by basically keeping our space safe from vulnerabilities. And also developer rangers, who will be able to earn by supporting our developer community, creating sample code, and all sorts of things, managing hackathons, meetups, and it's a great opportunity for those who want to break into the Web3 space or break onto our chain and learn more art on our chain, but also sort of earn at the same time.
Sure, yeah, so goes without saying, but Kudos is absolutely hungry for developers, and there are tons of opportunities going. So anyone who is kind of like interested in the blockchain and decentralized cloud computing, maybe think about lending your talents towards the Kudos network. Something to think about. Okay, Jeff, just wondering how much time you've still got. Obviously, we've got loads of questions, but if you did want to bow out, that is totally fine.
And yeah, sure. I just wanted to say one more thing about the ambassador program. So, yeah, I forgot to mention rewards. So, Rangers ambassadors can earn up to about $2,000 worth of kudos every month, depending on how much work they do. But so there's that incentive to get involved as well from that angle, and you can find out more about that on kudos.org/ambassador. So, yeah. Other than that,
Okay.
it's been great. This has probably been my favorite AMA that I've been a part of, to be honest.
Oh, Jeff, it's been
I've enjoyed
such
the
a
questions.
pleasure having you here, honestly. So great to have someone who is so passionate about the project, so knowledgeable about it.
Yeah,
and
I
you know,
personally have been so
so
excited to be and ask these questions. My only regret is that I couldn't ask more of them.
Yeah, you and the entire community. I mean, yeah, it's great to see so much interest in this project, and for those who still wanted to maybe interact with Jeff or have some of their questions answered, there will be opportunities to do so both in the CUDOS Discord, and also I'm sure any questions that you've put to us in our own Discord, we can arrange to maybe provide you answers for some of those at some point later as well. Else, maybe even an opportunity for Jeff to come back. I mean, there are tons of opportunities, tons of developments going on in CUDOS. Even in the next quarter, there are some really big things planned on their roadmap. So there would be tons of opportunities to have Jeff or another representative from CUDOS back. So yeah, fingers crossed this isn't the last that you've seen of CUDOS. Jeff, any closing remarks?
Not. No, other than thank you. You guys have been great hosts. The community's been great. Thanks for all the questions. Thanks for joining. I see a lot of our community members have joined as well, and I'd like to thank them for jumping on a Sunday and listening to me. Really appreciate the support from all of you.
On Father's Day,
you've been fantastic.
And I feel that it is my duty as a co-host to say that everything, and I mean everything that you guys as the audience have been hearing, are the opinions and information coming from us personally, and they do not represent necessarily the opinions of the entirety of GigaChad, the entirety of the Wolves of Alt Street, or the entirety of the team at the CUDOS Network. Yeah,
before everyone runs away, I just want to briefly go over again the airdrop. So yeah, there is a $4,000 airdrop going in CUDOS tokens. Make sure you visit www.gigachad.com/CUDOS for more details on how to enter. Else, Nexus, if you just wanted to add any closing remarks from the Wolves of Wall Street and yourself.
Absolutely. If you are seeing this on YouTube, you have 1 week to get this done and enter this AMA. This is probably the first post-show AMA airdrop that we've been able to offer in my community. So please, if you are seeing this on YouTube after the fact, you have until Sunday. You have 7 days from the time this video is posted to get this done.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks so much for everyone who did attend, despite it being Father's Day, and also despite the current market conditions. Like we said earlier in the AMA, the bear market is a time for building. In our own community, we've been warning you guys about, the bear period for a very long time. All of the levels that we've currently crossed have been forewarned and predicted weeks, months ago. So I know our own community is also very informed on the current market, but also just to say, guys, our own analysts would confirm this. It is now to start thinking about your next portfolio. It is the perfect time to start thinking about what you want to invest in for 2022, 23, 24, 25. We will eventually come to the end of this bull period, and anything that has potential to do well, it's time to start thinking about and doing your research. So I really do encourage you all to take into account what you've heard in this AMA, and I would encourage you to look into CUDOS yourself, make sure you do your own research, and consider it as an option for your future portfolio should you be wishing to build one in the near future.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you all so much for coming. We'll be wrapping this up now. Once again, please make sure to head to the CUDOS Discord if you've got any other questions. Else, my sincerest thanks to Nexus from the Wolves of Wall Street, both him and his community. You provided so much value to this AMA, and it's been a real pleasure to having you.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. It's been an utter pleasure.
And Jeff, you've just been phenomenal. You've handled all the questions really well, regardless of how difficult. Super informative, amazingly friendly, obviously very clever, very, very talented. You've done so well with your own community and integrated really well with both of our respective communities too. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming, and yeah, we've loved having you.
Thank you for having me, and I'd love to come back at some point as well.
Oh, we would love that too. All right, thank you everyone for coming. That is the end of the AMA. Make sure you submit your reviews. We look forward to reading them all. And once again, thank you, everybody. Take care, guys.
Take care, stay safe, be well, and always stay curious, my friends.
Yeah, not financial advice, by the way.
Thanks, guys.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.